Midweek edition of Matters, your weekday radio program that constantly seeks to address all forms of social issues that we encounter in our daily lives. From the messy waters of politics to the delicate and exciting world of entertainment, we also look at the world of your general health and wellness. We seek to engage you on the journey to clarity every single day of the week for 3 hours straight. I am Chinwe Blessing and I'm your host for the show this morning. We begin with World Rounds, the first segment of the show, taking a trip to the National Assembly. We bring you a comprehensive breakdown of the Senate's recent decision, a confirmation that has set the stage for significant changes. The Senate's resolute approval of 45 out of 48 ministerial nominees, reflecting a pivotal shift in governance dynamics. Join us as we unravel the implications, unveil the individuals poised to step into critical roles, and analyze the potential impact in our nation's trajectory. It promises to be an exciting edition. We have a public affairs analyst in the house today. We do hope to have a very meaningful and interesting conversation. I'd advise you to stay tuned. In the interim, I need to pay some bills. As usual, we ask, we probe, we seek clarity on the issues that bother us as Nigerians.
We have been serving you hot and fresh content on radio, and you have been loving it. Now we're taking it further. Catch us live on YouTube at BOP TV for all the juicy content you can't resist. Talk shows, exclusive interviews, news, lifestyle, and more. It's all about you. BOP TV, show up, speak up.
Are you aware that Iruka Online Limited installed and designed a 100,000 capacity church building? Oh yeah, we are the sole distributors of global leading brands all over the world, such as Wafday Line Array, speakers and digital amplifiers, Preseno's digital mixers and studio equipment, Coswell workstations and keyboards, Fender guitars, Mapex drums, Ashdown bass combos, just to mention but a few. We offer flexible payment plan handled by our financial department with 24/7 customer care support system. You can visit our website on www.iruka.com to avoid buying fake products. You can also visit our showroom at number 36 Lagos International Airport Road beside Golden Tulip Hotel. Iruka, never settle for less.
Are you traveling to Lagos and desire a perfect getaway?
Look no further than the luxurious accommodations at Airport Golden Tulip Hotel, number 42 Murtala Mohammed International Road, Lagos.
Relax and unwind in our beautiful appointed rooms, featuring all the amenities you need for a comfortable stay.
Now, whether you are traveling for business or pleasure, our attentive staff is here to ensure that your every need is met. We also offer complimentary pick-up and drop from the Lagos airport.
Why not take advantage of our state-of-the-art fitness center, outdoor pool, and enjoy a delicious meal at our on-site restaurant?
With stunning views, world-class service, and a prime location, Airport Golden Tulip Hotel is the perfect choice for your next vacation or business trip.
So why wait? Book your stay today and experience the ultimate in comfort and luxury at Airport Golden Tulip Hotel.
For bookings and reservations, please call 0815-8003-333 or 0815-7003-333. You can visit our website at airportgoldentuliphotel.com.
Airport Golden Tulip Hotel, where luxury meets comfort.
Believe me.
Check this out.
Voice of the People, 96.1 FM, Abuja. Now, you have a voice.
Did I just hear that right?
The Senate on Monday confirmed 45 of the 48 ministerial nominees sent to it by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It, however, deferred the confirmation of 3 nominees who said it was waiting security clearance. Those affected are former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, a former senator from Taraba, Sani Danladi, and a nominee from Delta State, Stella Okotete. Now, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the confirmation of these nominees after they were cleared by a voice vote by the senators at the plenary. The senators had cleared the nominees by voice vote at the Committee of the Whole when Mr. Akpabio read out their names one after the other. Now, after that, the Senate leader Okpeyemi Bamidele moved for a motion for the Senate to revert to the plenary to report progress. The minority leader, Simon Mwadkon, seconded the motion. Now, earlier, the upper legislative chamber screened the last 2 nominees, Maria Mahmood from Kano and Festus Keyamo from Delta, at the Committee of the Whole presided over by Akpabio. The president nominated both Mr. Keyamo and Mrs. Mahmood on Friday. Now, the Senate had previously screened 46 nominees between Monday and Saturday last week. President Tinubu transmitted the names of the nominees in 3 separate correspondences to the upper house of the National Assembly on the 28th of July, the 3rd of August, and the 4th of August. In the 4th of August letter, the president informed the legislature that he had withdrawn one of the nominees from Kano, Mariam Shetty, and replaced her with Mrs. Mahmood. Well, we do have a list of the names. I think we've gone over them on many or several other shows. And, we just want to look into this development and what it means for the nation. And, of course, we're still going to spill over into some of the other things that the Senate has been up to. The National Assembly basically put together. We're going to look at the things that they've been up to lately and how Nigerians feel about it. To have this conversation with us, we have Bashir Shitu. He's a public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for joining us in the house this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a big pleasure. Thank you for taking out your time. Let's begin with your overview, your general thoughts about the entire process of the ministerial. Everything that concerns the ministerial list, the people nominated, the amount of time it took for this list to come out. Did people on the list, did they match the expectations of the people with all the time that it took? What are your thoughts, general thoughts?
That's a mouthful to begin with. I've always questioned the time between the inauguration and the nomination of the ministers. It's something I have done from the word go. And once again, we are having this delay that we've always had in nominating ministers for ministerial positions. It didn't just start with this administration. We've always had it. We've always had this delay. After a government is inaugurated, it takes them a lot of time before they come up with names of nominees for ministerial positions. I thought we were going to have it differently this time around. Unfortunately, here we are. But a lot of factors may be responsible for the delay, as we have been made to understand in some quarters. But I feel for a government that is serious, long before you are inaugurated as the president, I expect that you would have had your cabinet ready. Perhaps not formally, but you must have had your thought. You must have thought about the people you intend to work with as president when you eventually get into office. It is not when you get into office 8 people who in one way or the other played their roles in ensuring that we are elected into office. And I think that's one of the factors that played out and that resulted in that delay that we have. As we see on some of the names that have actually made the nomination, these were allies of the president. I'm sorry to say that some of those names were public allies of the president, and we didn't expect that they will make the list to begin with, but here we are. So the list is clouded with names of people who were close allies of the president, and we saw a few technocrats there who equally made the list. The president tried to create the impression that he's bringing on board both the old and the new. as much as we need the new more than the old. But 9 state governors in the ministerial list, it sends out a signal, it sends out a message. And I think, this is my personal thought though, that the president is preparing for the eventuality of a rerun or a re-election in 2027. This is politics. Nothing happens by mistake. Everything that happens is planned to happen. So I am looking at it that he has decided to bring these people closer to him. In the event that the court ruling does not go in his favor, and the rule in favor of a rerun, he will have the foundation on which to thrive. And if that does not happen and he completes his tenure of 4 years and he decides to rerun, he will be able to build on that foundation as well. But I feel he has done that at the detriment of the development of this country, which is supposed to take priority over everything else. We live in a country where we have a lot of challenges on the hope front, and this is not time for us to play politics with the people we intend to bring into office to run the affairs of this country. So he has tried to merge politics with due diligence. I don't know how that is going to play out on the long run, but as it stands right now, the list is still a mix between the old faces and the new faces. So about the new faces we have, it's commendable. I'll commend him in that retrospect. He has done well by trying to bring to bear people that have performed excellently well in other areas of endeavors, deciding to bring them into government to see how they can contribute their quota to the development of this country is commendable. But there are a lot of those faces we didn't expect would equally make it to the list, which did. So it's a complete mix of politics and politicians and technocrats, and we've seen the old faces coming back. Some persons may argue that we need the experience of the old, and I don't doubt that. Okay, maybe as we go further, I'll be able to tell you why I feel some of these people shouldn't be there. Maybe because of their past academic records or past public record and all of that. So I think Nigeria has moved past that stage where we should base our political journey or our developmental journey on alliances. Okay, we have come to the stage where we should do away with the politics of compensation, as I choose to call it. The politics of rewarding people with political positions because they helped us get into office is not going to get us anywhere. Now, appointment into political offices should be purely based on merit and antecedent. But against the backdrop of that, the current administration has not done that pretty well, because we can still point at some of the fingers we know were instrumental in electing him to office, and he decided to just give them the position, appoint them into those offices because he feels they have earned it, not because he feels they are qualified.
Now, do you think that a lot of people have pointed fingers at the Senate right from the beginning? People were afraid that there will be a rubber stamp National Assembly, and do you think they actually went on to prove people right or wrong, with considering the fact that they have approved for 45 people on that list? We watched most of the they weren't. Do you think they did a good job?
Well, I wouldn't say they did a good job. I would say they were a bit partial in the course of the screening, because as usual we had the deadly take a bow and go syndrome again, as we've always had. And this is not the first time we are criticizing it. We've always criticized it. You see, when you come to the Senate to be screened, you are there to be asked questions to which you're expected to provide answers. But without asking these questions, you just ask somebody to take a bow and go. And so it leaves the question of whether you are doing due diligence on your part as senators. We had a lot of cases, like the case of Hannatu Musawa, who in the course of introducing herself burst into tears, and instead of continuing the screening exercise, they simply asked her to take a bow and go. So the questions were asked. We didn't know how she intends to solve some of the problems that we are faced with as a nation. She was asked to take a bow and go. The same thing with the issue of Bello Muhammad Goro from Sokoto State, who had irregularities with his result. And instead of attending to these irregularities and asking questions and probing him, they simply asked him to take a bow and go. We equally see the case of Dele Alake, who was petitioned for a comment he made during campaign. And instead of attending to that comment, Senator Godswill Akpabio, the Senate President, simply said, since it happened before election, they should not be attending to it. And so they allowed him to take a bow and go to. They did not attend to the case of Dele Alake because it was pre-election. How about the case of Bosun Tijani? For a statement he made as far back as 2021, but he was still held down on that statement until he was made to apologize. But Dele Alake was not made to apologize, maybe because he has friends in the Senate. So the Senate was a bit partial actually in the course of the screening. And you look at the 45 names that were eventually cleared, they are no longer nominees. We no longer refer to them as nominees. They are now ministerial delegates, okay, except that they have not been handed over portfolios yet. You see those 3 names that are out. Those were not the only 3 names that had irregularities in their result or security concerns or have security problems to clarify us on. Those were not the only 3. I just mentioned the issue of Mohammed Goroyo from Sokoto State, who had irregularities in the result too. Why was he cleared? Okay, and the Senate has said that these 3 were not cleared for security concerns. Okay, former governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir Rufai, what's his name? Stella Oketete.
Yes.
And the 3rd person is who?
Sani Danladi.
Okay, Sani Danladi from Taraba State. Yeah, those were the 3 persons, but those were not the only ones that had petitions against them, different petitions. So I learned that Oketete has written to the institutions that she graduated from, asking them to provide clarification as to her claim. She claimed she graduated from Dahosa University in 2007, and that she served in Kebbi State in 2009. She has equally written to the NYSC, asked them to provide proof that he actually served under the scheme. As we await this institution to submit their claim, I feel due process has not been followed in even with those ones that have been cleared. There were some persons with mark of historical negativity, okay, on their part, that they're screened successfully, maybe as a result of their affiliation in the house, or maybe as a result of their connection in the house. I feel it shouldn't be. People should be screened on the basis of what they say, on the basis of how well they have answered the questions that they have been asked, on the basis of their performance, on the basis of their antecedent, not because they have friends in the Senate, not because they have people to vow for them, not because they can just be asked to take a bow and go. If you watched very well, the former Lagos State Commissioner for Finance, Olawale Edun, was one of the ministerial nominees. It took put him to an hour-long test. It took them over an hour screening him, scrutinizing him, asking him different questions to which he provided answer. I wish that the Senate actually did this to all the other nominees. It would have given Nigerians the impression that at least we have a Senate House that is not biased in carrying out its duty.
All right, now I do have another question to ask you. What factors do you believe contributed to the high approval rate of these ministerial nominees, even though most of them were not properly screened?
Yes, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila has made us to understand that the president does not intend to continue with ministries of state, which is what would have resulted in the cut down of the ministries. But since the president does not intend to continue with the ministries of state as his predecessors did, then there will be need for more, ministers. And he has said too, that's Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila has said too, that the president intends to expand ministries, which means he is going to divide some ministries. Okay, one of such ministries, as I've learned, may be the Ministry of Information and Communication and Digital Economy. What I think is going to happen there is that the president is going to split the ministry into 2. So you are going to have Ministry of Information and Communication, and then on the other hand, you are going to have Ministry of Digital Economy. So I think with all of these that the president intends to do, there is the need for more ministers to accommodate these offices. But then, if you ask me, at a time when we are facing a lot of challenges on the home front, 48 ministers is way too much. Especially at a time when we are preaching cut down in the expenses of governance. At a time when we are preaching the need for us to save, we are still bringing ministers in with portfolios that does not actually contribute to the development of the country. So if you ask me, it's too much, but that has been justified by the fact that there'll be creation of more ministries and the division of more ministries to accommodate these ministers. But then until portfolios are attached to some of these ministers, we may never know how the intention behind the decision of the president not to retain ministries of state. So it's justifiable, but I think we don't need it. 48 ministers, I stand to say, is way too much at this time.
Now, what implications do you foresee for governance, given the substantial number you just mentioned of confirmed nominees?
Consequences will be that the cost of governance will go up. Okay, we heard too somewhere in Adamawa State that the governor, appointed 47 special advisors on media, 47 people to manage your social media pages. How many social media platforms do we have? So when it happens like that, you're going to have a rise in cost of governance, and the idea to save will no longer be there, because each of these persons will be entitled to salaries, and apart from that, on a personal basis, their ministries will be entitled to funds too from the federal coffers. At a time when we need to push money into other areas that should develop our country, we don't need that rise in the cost of governance. So that is the immediate effect this is going to have on the government in the long run.
Now, if we've always criticized, we had a conversation just now about the take a bow and go approach that was used in this screening. If we've always criticized it before now, what would you say are the factors that have led to it being repeated, and what can actually be done to halt it, since moving forward we are still trying to build a greater Nigeria? Well,
our affiliation, like I said, is one of the reasons why you will continue to have this devil in our midst for a long time to come. I don't see it ending anytime soon. This take and bow syndrome has always been there, and it's because if you're my friend in the Senate, for instance, you will not stand and have me grilled by the other senators, and more so when you have more friends in the Senate.
Should it be a factor, the friendship, the personal relationship people have outside of, we're talking about ministerial appointments, we're talking about positions that actually can affect the lives of thousands and millions of people that are in this country. Should the personal relationships between whoever the nominee is and whoever is supposed to be screened be a factor in whether or not they are grilled?
Now, I said that appointments should be purely based on antecedents and capacity. That is how it ought to be. And when you appear before the Senate, we expect that irrespective of who you are, you should be done the same thing that others are done to. You see, you should be subjected to the same level of scrutiny that others are subjected to, irrespective of your political affiliation, irrespective of the level of friendship you have in the house. But because we in this country, we believe in protecting our own, even if it is dangerous, even if he is not the best man for the job, we feel because he's our friend, we should allow him to just go and do the job, even if we know he's not going to do the job well. It's a disease in our system, and it's a disease that has been there for a long time. Going forward, I think there should be a policy on how, and a clear-cut framework of how the screening should go. Okay, there should be timelines that each of the ministerial nominees should be subjected to scrutiny by the senators. You cannot just come and be asked to take a bow and go. The policy should include the time frame within which you are expected to be grilled. If we say every nominee must speak for a period for a minimum of 1 hour, for instance, or a minimum of 2 hours, for instance, I believe we'll be able to bring out the best in the people that we are actually nominating. So, but when somebody just appear on stage and the next thing, because you know him, because he knows him, you simply ask him to take a bow and go, does not tell well on our democracy.
Now, the fact that this happens over and over again, I happened to watch most of the screenings and I saw how it was done as though it is what should be done. Yeah. Senator Abok made a statement, and at the end, the way he just casually said he should take a bow and leave when and it begs the question: are these members, are these senators aware that they are not supposed to do that? Because the way that it's done, the frequency at which it is done, you'd wonder if they are aware that it is wrongdoing.
Now, the only justification they give, I'm not saying the only justification that there is. The only justification that they give for doing that is because they have been with these people. They know what they are capable of. They know their antecedent. They know what their capacity is. But it should not be the basis of judgment. Because if that were the case, the president would have retained them in their former portfolio. But as long as you come out, whether you have been in the system or not, you should be subjected to the same level of scrutiny as everybody else. I mean, that's the only way we can ensure equity. And
because I mean, if it's based on that, there should be no need for a screening in the first place.
If the moment you are pushed in for screening, then you should be screened.
You should be screened. And then now this will bring the question: do Nigerians trust the Senate enough to actually allow them make decisions on their own, just like that, without following due process, when Nigerians are actually watching it? Because how is the trust level between Nigerians and any administrative body?
Well, the trust between Nigerians and our legislators has been breached for a very long time. This is if anybody tell me that he has no trust in the Senate or has no trust in the presidency, I would not counter that, because we have seen it happen. Let me give you a scenario. In 2019, the NNPC and the federal government pushed a whopping 1.5 billion naira. $1.5 billion, into the turnaround maintenance of the Port Harcourt refineries. That money went out the drill. Nobody heard anything. The turnaround maintenance never took place. In 2020, the then Minister for State for Petroleum, Timi Silva, promised Nigerians that by December 2022, that the Port Harcourt refinery would be completed and fully operational. As I speak with you, it's still not fully operational. The same way they told us that this month, being August 2023, the Dangote refinery in Lagos will begin full operation. Here we are yet to see their products in the market. So you see, with this track history of lies, it's only natural for Nigerians to disbelieve in whatever the government has to say. So I'm not surprised that, once again, we're not putting our trust in the Senate.
Well, and then now, what particular were there any challenges or controversies besides, of course, being the fact that there's a rubber stamp situation going on? The president says do a thing and you're just going through with it. Were there any other challenges or controversies that you saw surrounding the confirmation processes of these nominees?
Well, the confirmation, not the screening itself.
The confirmation.
Okay. You see, those three were suspended on the basis of security issues, right? But what we know is that the DSS scrutiny, the DSS background verification of each of the ministerial nominees is supposed to precede the ministerial screening. It means before the names were forwarded to the Senate, the DSS ought to have done background verification on each of the nominees. So if they are now suspending these three on the basis of security issues, is it safe enough to say that the DSS actually didn't do anything? Because if the DSS did what they were expected to do, then we wouldn't have this issue. So I think there is a lapse. I think there is something that they are not telling Nigerians. And I think it's high time somebody comes to tell us the reason why these three were suspended against the expectations of many, because nobody would have thought that somebody like Rufai would be on that list. But here we are. So if it's a security concern, is it that DSS didn't do its job? Because the DSS background verification process is supposed to precede the actual screening exercise.
So now, I was going to ask you, are there any ministers that you believe, or ministerial delegates that you believe should not have been on that list? And why?
Well, that's
personal opinion.
If you're expecting me to mention names, I'm sorry that I'm going to have to turn you down in that regard. I will not mention specifically, but yes, I feel there are people that should not be.
Give
on
us
that
reasons
list.
why you feel some
reason being that they have a shady educational background. They have a shady. One of them, I wouldn't mention names. Okay, one of them was barred by the Supreme Court in 2019 from participating in elections and from holding any political office. Now we know
who that is. Go ahead.
So some of these persons with dark history are people I don't expect to be on that list. And then there are others too who underperformed in their previous positions that they held. We didn't quite see them bring to bear the best in them. So such people I expected ought not to have made the list. But here we are, like I said from the beginning of my talk. Maybe those ones have been compensated for the role that they play in ensuring that the president is returned, the president is elected. And my fear is that there should not be given any of those powerful ministries that controls the economy of this country, because it will be a total failure. We had it during the last administration when the former Minister of Education, at the end of his tenure, came out publicly to say that he knew nothing about the sector when he was appointed. Yeah. So how do you appoint somebody who has no experience in a particular position into handling that position?
Well, it's about time for us to rush to the markets, pay some bills. But when we return, while Nigerians are still waiting on the federal government to roll out palliatives to help mitigate the effects of the fuel subsidy removal and the floating of the naira that has brought a lot of hardship on Nigerians, and while Nigerians are still hoping that the government will cut down expenses, especially on their side, as the government, God's will, Akpabio, the Senate president, makes a very shocking revelation in the House. Well, we'll come back and we'll look at it. We still have our guest Bashir Shitu in the building, and we would continue. Don't go anywhere. Please stay with us.
Of the leader, and then as soon as Senator Umahi takes his oath of office, we shall rearrange the office of the leadership in order to enable all of us to enjoy our holidays. A token has been sent to our various accounts by the clerk of the National Assembly. I withdraw that statement. In order to allow you to enjoy your holiday, the Senate President has sent prayers to your mailboxes. To assist you to go on a safe journey and return. This Senate
09-238-9861. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter at rumourspizza.ng. Website www.rumourspizza.ng. Romeo, the pizza champions. Are you aware that Iroka Online Limited installed and designed a 100,000 capacity church building? Oh yeah, we are the sole distributors of global leading brands all over the world, such as Rufai line array, speakers and digital amplifiers, Preseno's digital mixers and studio equipment, Coswell workstations and keyboards, Fender guitars, Mapex drums, Ashdown bass combos, just to mention but a few. We offer flexible payment plan handled by our financial department with 24/7 customer care support system. You can visit our website on www.iroka.com to avoid buying fake products. You can also visit our showroom at number 36 Lagos International Airport Road beside Golden Tulip Hotel. Iroka, never settle for less.
Are you traveling to Lagos and desire a perfect getaway?
Look no further than the luxurious accommodations at Airport Golden Tulip Hotel, number 42 Murtala Mohammed International Road, Lagos.
Relax and unwind in our beautiful appointed rooms, featuring all the amenities you need for a comfortable stay.
Now, whether you are traveling for business or pleasure, our attentive staff is here to ensure that your every need is met. We also offer complimentary pick-up and drop from the Lagos airport.
Why not take advantage of our state-of-the-art fitness center, outdoor pool, and enjoy a delicious meal at our on-site restaurant?
With stunning views, world-class service, and a prime location, Airport Golden Tulip Hotel is the perfect choice for your next vacation or business trip.
So why wait? Book your stay today and experience the ultimate in comfort and luxury at Airport Golden Tulip Hotel.
For bookings and reservations, please call 0815-8003-333 or 0815-7003-333. You can visit our website at airportgoldentuliphotel.com.
Airport Golden Tulip Hotel, where luxury meets comfort.
Believe me, Believe me.
Attention, please, VOP ears.
Live in Abuja.
Attention, please, VOP ears.
96.1.
Attention, please, VOP ears.
Voice of the People, 96.1 FM.
Others may drop the mic. I talk into it. If you're in need of a voice, well, I've got one.
Voice of the People, 96.1 FM.
The hustle never stops.
Kind of 4,000. I pay for 4,000.
The grind must continue.
It seems that yes, I would like to buy something.
Regardless of how hard life gets, take a break from the norm. Let's face life issues head on. From alcoholism to obesity, entertainment and lifestyle.
Plastic surgery does still go wrong.
Everything that matters. Fun matters. Mondays to Fridays, 12 to 3 p.m. on Voice of the People, Abuja. Because your voice matters.
Well, there was drama. There currently is drama going on Twitter right now. Nigerians are not very pleased with a statement that the president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, made in the House. Now, Godswill Akpabio, the Senate president, has found himself in an embarrassing situation after revealing that money has been sent to senators to enjoy their recess. Now, this is while Nigerians are still waiting for their for their 8,000 naira. Lord have mercy. Look, you know when a situation is so bad you can only laugh. Nigerians are waiting for their 8,000 naira monthly palliative for a whole family, which will be 220 something naira per day. But then on Monday, the upper legislative chamber concluded the screening and confirmation of Bola Tinubu's ministerial nominees. And after that, the senators adjourned plenary to September 26th. So that means they're going to go on recess. They're going on a break to chill out while Nigerians are still going to work. Yes, because if you don't go to work now, you're not going to.
No, we don't get to chill out here.
Oh, no, we don't get to. Thank you very much. We don't get to chill out here. We get to work.
Yes.
Now, addressing his colleagues before the adjournment motion was moved, Akpabio said money has been sent by Magaji Tambuwal, the clerk of the National Assembly, to the senators to enjoy their holidays. I don't know what to do with that information. It's not for me to do anything with. I'm glad we do have an analyst in the house. It's his job to do something with. Now, in order to enable us enjoy our holidays, a token has been sent out to our various accounts by the clerk of the National Assembly. That's what the Senate president said. And then he was quickly reminded by his colleagues that he was on live television. You see, whoever it is whose idea was it to keep live broadcasts of the sittings in the chambers is just somebody that we should lift up to God in prayers and thank for his life, because that person has helped us a great deal in many ways that they probably do not know. Now, the Senate president was quickly informed by his colleagues that he was speaking before press cameras and live television. Upon realizing the magnitude of this, he swiftly beat a retreat. He said, I withdraw that statement in order to allow you enjoy your holiday. The Senate president has sent prayers to your mailboxes to assist you go on a safe journey and return. Now, I'm going to quickly play the voice of the Senate president. You'd hear it, and then we'll come back and have a conversation about it briefly before we wrap up World Round. Stay with us.
Of the leader, and then as soon as Senator Umahi takes his oath of office, we shall rearrange the office of the leadership. In order to enable all of us to enjoy our holidays, a token has been sent to our various accounts by the clerk of the National Assembly. I withdraw that statement. In order to allow you to enjoy your holiday, the Senate President has sent prayers to your mailboxes. To assist you to go on a safe journey and return. This Senate
And well, that was the voice of the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. And, just before we came on air, myself and Bashir Shitu were having a conversation about this. And I was saying, I feel like these people just give us things to talk about every other day, because I think another colleague of mine, Aliu, was saying, well, they are goofing. They are starting to talk on their own. Now, it's no secret that the salaries and allowances of federal lawmakers are often shrouded in secrecy, and this is gradually opening the eyes of Nigerians to see maybe this is the reason why that it's being so. What are your general thoughts before we even go into specifics?
One way the Senator Godswill Akpabio's speech shows insensitivity on the part of governance, how insensitive our leaders are to the plight of the Nigerian citizens. At a time when we are suffering, at a time when the country is suffering, at a time when people find it difficult to feed, at a time when people are finding it difficult to transport themselves to and fro their places of work, at a time where a lot of persons have packed their vehicles and have resorted to walking, at a time where we have been divided by the wars in various regions across the country, our senators have decided to take a recess and have decided to deposit, I am sure, a huge amount of money. It's not a token as he made it look like. Maybe he forgot that he was on live television.
No, I don't think it's a maybe. I mean, considering he was, if you watch the video, you'd see them reminding.
A typical Nigerian man will say, see finish, no pass this one. This is simply see finish. When you don't put the plight of your people into consideration. But it's disheartening. It's disheartening that at a time like this, somebody of Akpabio's personality will be making that type of statement on public TV. If he had not been prompted, he would not have withdrawn the case. Whether he withdrew that word or not, it has been said. And we heard it perfectly well. It shows that they have no interest of Nigeria at heart. That they are there to collect their token when they feel it is the time for them to collect and go and enjoy themselves and come back.
Now, we know that this is not the first insensitive statement being made by the Senate President. Just a week ago, he made a statement citing the President, saying, we've been asked to let the poor breathe. So anybody in support of the poor breathe.
I think they are simply taking us for a ride. Okay, they are taking the plight of Nigerians as a joke. It's a joke to them. I don't see any level of seriousness as I expect to. But then I say again, it's quite disheartening, the crop of leaders that we have.
I mean, now the question that I do have to ask about this, like I ask about everything else, where is the place of the Nigerian person? What does the Nigerian person do in this kind of situation? How do we put our legislature in check?
Well, as difficult as that is, we voted for, these senators are there to represent us, to make laws, to make policies that will make life easy for you and I. And if it is found at any point that they are not doing that, the best that we can do is to criticize them, which is what we are doing right now. So it's not only in this quarter, but I'm sure that as far as that video has gone, it has welcomed a lot of criticism, and I'm sure that they listen to all this criticism and they'll be able to amend their ways going forward.
I mean, in the past we've had people criticize. How much of a criticism is a criticism enough?
Well, you have, I think, to some extent, we have seen the after effect of some of this criticism, except that some of them may later come back to haunt us, like in the case of Bosun Tijani, for something he said in 2021. So, but then that does not mean we should keep our mouth.
I mean, what you just said, bring me back to Bosun Tijani. Should that be scrutinized or should that be applauded?
Well, I think there is a fine line. There is a fine line between freedom of speech and freedom of insult. That is the line that Bosun Tijani failed to understand. There's a fine line between criticism and insult. So what he said, they were not scrutinizing. They didn't hold him down on the basis of the earlier statement he made during the NSAS protest, where he said that Nigeria is not a place to be. That is not what they held him down for, because that's obvious. Okay, but they held him down on the foundation of his saying, of his word, that the senators are morons, which is a clear insult. That wasn't criticism in any way. He referred to them as morons, and years later he's in front of them to be cleared. So there's a thin line between the while trying to criticize government officials, we should be mindful of our choice of word and not resort to utter insult.
Absolutely, I think that's a lesson Nigerians should actually learn.
And now we should take into cognizance what we say on the public space. Like they say, social media does not forget. Even if you delete that post, somebody has screenshot it somewhere
or bookmarked it,
and on a good day they will play it out for you.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the situation in the country with trying to manage resources and cut down the expenses or the expensive nature of governance, in the country. What can actually be done? What should be done? At this point, I think I should be asking what should, because what can be done is a little beyond us. What should be done actually to be able to cut down? What are the areas you think we should look into to be able to cut down these expenses and put money the way it should be put, so that the country would actually progress?
Well, the first thing is I would suggest is devaluation of politics. Devaluation of politics is one of the biggest problems that we have in this country. You care to ask why a lot of people go into politics? Many people go into politics not because politics offer them the opportunity to make substantial changes in the society. They go into it because of what is in it for them. Do you know how much a senator collects a salary in this country? It runs into millions. How much House of Rep members collect in this country? It runs into millions. Okay, so the first step that government can take is to cut down on the individual expenses of these senators, to cut down the individual expenses of these lawmakers, to cut down the individual expenses of these ministers that we're bringing into office. When people begin to see that there isn't there what they think is there, you see that less people will enter into governance. Take it for instance that a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is paid 200,000 naira every month. A minister, if he's paid 200,000 naira every month, you will find very less amount of people, very less people, wanting to be ministers in this country.
I mean, we've seen this done in places like the UK, because Nigeria likes to talk about the UK a lot, but we've seen a situation where the former prime minister of the UK, Boris Johnson, we've seen where he lives. We know he takes the train. We know he lives like the everyday man. Do you think there will be a time ever in Nigeria that would have that kind of happening?
And so that's why when you ask what should be done, I think these are some of the steps and it has to begin with the president. Okay, that we need to structure a policy that will ensure that this set of people are spent less on, and that they have less to spend. When you cut down their salary, you cut down their gratuities, you cut down their their token. You cut down their token.
Allowances.
You are going to have less people coming here, because now they know they are not going there for the money, because the money is no longer there. They know they are coming there to work, and it will ensure that they put their best into ensuring that the portfolio they are giving is properly attended to. So that's one step that the government will take to cut down on expenses. If this is done on the long run, because you see that more than 20% of our internally generated revenue goes into taking care of domestic needs. Now, Nigeria is a country that is not producing. Okay, we are not producing. So If we do that, then we should shift our energy more towards production. That's one of the biggest economic problems that we have in this country. We're not producing anything. We're merely consuming. As far back as 1970, China was one of the poorest economies in the world. And in a whole year, they produced nothing more than 400 air conditioners. As I speak with you now, they are the highest producers of air conditioners in the world, simply because they channeled their effort towards production. We don't produce in this country. We merely consume. Nigeria is a country we cannot produce ordinary toothpick. Everything is imported. So if we cut down the cost of governance and we ensure productivity, we produce, we encourage SMEs, we encourage homegrown and domestic companies to produce, I believe it's only a matter of time before the status quo changes from what it is right now.
Well, now the National Assembly is under fire. Akpabio himself is under a lot of heat, especially on social media, by Nigerians. Nigerians are criticizing him left, right, and center for the statement. And not just him, the National Assembly generally, and the way that monies are being spent. Nigerians' taxpayers' money are being spent, in the coffers of government. What do you think would be an appropriate response by the National Assembly to these criticisms?
Well, as with regard to what Akpabio just said about the token, I believe, I'm telling you this with all sense of sincerity, at the end of the day, he will come out and tell us that he was merely joking. And he will be quick to tell us that, after all, he withdrew his statement. But that's only by the way. But the Senate is shouldered with the responsibility of, making decisions that will better the lives of Nigerians. And that is something I've not seen them do more. So time has come for them to sit up. The criticism has always been there, but we have a culture of paying deaf ears to criticism in this country. They just simply allow us to make all the noise that we can make, and at the end of the day, they simply do what they feel is their best, and then they leave the stage when the time comes for them to leave. So they don't heed to our criticism, but that doesn't mean that we should stop criticizing. We'll continue to criticize as long as the wrong thing is done, until the right thing is done.
Well, let's go back and take a very quick look back at the first issue that we were discussing before we took a little sojourn to looking at the words of the Senate president. Actually, now back to the approval of 45 out of 48 ministers that were nominated for the ministerial positions. What do you think would be the outcome from the other three that are still under probe?
Well, it will be difficult to tell, but I believe they will get their confirmation at the end of the day, because Mrs. Stella Okititi, for instance, who has written to all the institutions concerned, I believe that by the time the institutions provide their report, she will be cleared, and the other two, Danladi and El Rufai, I believe will be cleared at the end of the day too. But then earlier too, there was something I left out while we were discussing whether the Senate was partial or was transparent in their screening. I don't know if you have listened to the agitation by the Southeast senators asking for more recognition in the ministerial list, because they felt the Southeast is the only region of the country that did not get as more ministers as the others, and they tried to justify this, which is one place I feel is of serious concern, because the Constitution provides that every region of the country must be properly represented, must be properly captured. In the past, how it has always been since 1999 is that, apart from the fact that you have senators from the 36 states, you have ministers from the 36 states of the Federation, you equally have, one senator, one minister from each of the zones. Okay, at a point there was having an increment to one or two from each of the zones. You look at the Northwest, for instance, there were extra 3 ministers. The Northeast, extra 3. North Central, extra 2, making it 8. Southwest, extra 3, making it 9. South, extra 3, making it 8. Southeast, extra 0, making it 5. Because there are 5 states that makes up the Southeast.
And there was no extra in the
There was no extra. It means you only appointed ministers from the states and not ministers from the region. It's one of the things that they are clamoring for. So there is the tendency that we may even have more ministers at the end of the day. Maybe
they would add more,
an extra minister, to ensure that the balance is done. And they are already quoting sections of the Constitution that actually support that representation. For instance, Section 14, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, which preaches equality in designating, ministers across.
Can we afford more ministers at this point as a nation?
Well, I have told you before that even as it is right now, they are too much. But here we are, people in other quarters saying that they have not gotten enough representation, and in wanting to appease them, we may decide to add more, which is not good for us.
What happens?
So what I expect the president would have done, is to even shun away from the idea of having ministers from each of the zones. If you have ministers from the states, and it is states that make up the zone, then you no longer need ministers from the zones themselves, because the ministers from each of the states in the zone ought to represent the entirety of the zone. So the president ought to have done away with ministerial nominees from the zones themselves, since you already have ministerial nominees from the states.
Well, we have just about a minute to wrap up this conversation. What do you have to say in closing?
Well, I think we expect that within the next few days, the ministerial delegates will be handed down their portfolio. We hope and we pray for them that they deliver on the mandate. We have a few names that we feel will make up for some, portfolios like that. Some persons are already tipping Nasir Rufai in the event that he's confirmed will be made to take over the Ministry of Power. Wale Edun unquestionably will most definitely be handed the portfolio for the Ministry of Finance. The Ali Party may definitely go for Ministry of Health. Bosun Tijani, we know, may likely go for digital economy. And I think it's actually because of him that the president is looking at ways to split that ministry into two, to accommodate somebody like him who will be solely focused on digital economy, while someone else will work from the.
Do you think this is good, though? Do you think this is a good thing? Are they fitting square pegs into square holes?
Well, I believe the division to some extent can be justified, because we have had in ministries where this combination has not actually worked for us. Like when the Ministry of Power, Housing and Works was combined, we have not actually seen more, and I think it's an overburden on the minister in charge of that ministry. So dividing such ministries will create room for flexibility on the part of the ministers.
Well, thank you very much, Bashir Shitu, for sitting with me and having this conversation. It's very, very interesting, very inciting, very interesting and very exciting, and we have learned a lot from this conversation, and I hope you listening to me has as well. Now, there you have it, an insightful journey through the corridors of power and the pivotal decisions that shape our nation. Yet again, we have sat in this chair and we've had this conversation with you, our listener. The Senate's approval of 45 out of 48 nominees marks a milestone in governance, or does it? Of course, our sincere appreciation goes to our esteemed guests and to you, our engaged listeners, for being a part of this significant conversation.